Dex Arlen wiped the grease from his hands onto a rag that had long since given up being clean. His ship, the Wrench's Gambit, wasn't much to look at. A patchwork freighter held together by spare parts, stubborn optimism, and engineering that made certified mechanics weep. But she flew, and in the outer fringe that was all that mattered. He was elbow-deep in the port thruster assembly when the docking clamps engaged without warning. "Not again," Dex muttered, reaching for the plasma wrench he kept within arm's reach. Not for repairs, for guests. The airlock hissed open and Princess Valera stepped aboard first, as she always did. Tall, regal, with crystalline skin that refracted the ship's dim lighting into prismatic patterns, she surveyed the cargo bay like a queen inspecting conquered territory. Her twin sister, Princess Kane, followed close behind, identical in every way except for the mischievous glint in her eyes that Valera lacked. "Mechanic Arlen," Valera announced, her voice carrying the musical harmony characteristic of the Zephyrian royal bloodline. "We require your services once more." Dex didn't look up from his work. "Funny. Last time you required my services, you tried to claim my hyperdrive converter as a diplomatic gift." "An unfortunate misunderstanding," Kane said, already wandering toward his tool bench with the casual entitlement of someone who'd never been told no. "We were simply appreciating its craftsmanship." "You were stealing it." "Borrowing," both princesses corrected in perfect unison. This had become routine over the past 3 months. Ever since Dex had jury-rigged their royal cruiser's fusion core with nothing but salvaged parts, and what the princesses called impossible human audacity, they'd been showing up unannounced. Sometimes for repairs, sometimes for inspections, once memorably, because Kane wanted to learn how to hotwire a Class 7 security system. Dex finally straightened, fixing them both with the tired expression of a man who'd long since given up on having a normal day. "What is it this time?" Valera produced a data tablet, its surface etched with royal insignias that probably cost more than his entire ship. "Our diplomatic convoy will be passing through the Andros Nebula in 72 hours. Intelligence suggests the Krelthar pirate clans have established ambush positions at the standard jump points, so take a different route." "Unacceptable," Valera said flatly. "The Zephyrian Empire does not alter its course for petty criminals." "Right, because pride is a great shield against plasma cannons." Kane leaned against his workbench, examining a hydraulic coupling with entirely too much interest. "This is where you come in, Mechanic Arlen. We need someone who thinks unconventionally." "You mean someone who breaks every regulation in the Universal Flight Manual?" "Exactly." Kane's face lit up with genuine enthusiasm. "Father says you're either a genius or insane. Mother says you're both. Either way, you're our best option." Dex rubbed his temples. The Zephyrian royal family had an uncomfortable amount of information about him. "I'm a mechanic, not a military strategist. Hire a mercenary fleet." "We did," Valera said quietly. "The Krelthar captured them. All 17 ships." That made Dex pause. 17 ships wasn't a raiding party. It was an invasion force. "What aren't you telling me?" The princesses exchanged a look, one of those silent twin communications that always made Dex nervous. Finally, Kane spoke. "The convoy isn't just diplomatic. We're transporting the crown jewels of Zephyr to the treaty signing at Nexus Prime. If the Krelthar capture them, your empire loses legitimacy, the treaty collapses, and this whole sector descends into war," Dex finished. "Wonderful. And you want me to what exactly?" Valera stepped closer, her crystalline features reflecting his own skeptical expression back at him. "Get us through the nebula." "The Krelthar will be watching for warships, for stealth cruisers, for anything with military signatures. But a broken-down freighter crewed by a human mechanic with documented mental instability?" "I don't have documented—" "You disabled a planetary defense grid with a modified coffee maker," Kane interrupted. "It's very documented. That was one time, and it was an emergency." Dex stopped himself. "Wait, you want to hide the crown jewels on my ship?" 21 minutes, Valera said, consulting her tablet. "That's how long it will take to transfer the artifacts from our cruiser to your cargo hold. The Krelthar's surveillance drones sweep this sector every 30 minutes. If we time it correctly, they'll never detect the transfer." Dex looked around his ship, at the exposed wiring, the patched hull plates, the thruster assembly he'd literally held together with magnetic clamps and prayer. "This ship barely maintains atmosphere. You want to trust the fate of your entire civilization to this?" Yes, both princesses said simultaneously. Why? Kane smiled. That dangerous smile that had gotten Dex into trouble more times than he could count. Because 3 months ago you fixed our fusion core with spare parts and swear words. Because you once escaped a Vortan blockade by flying through a star's corona. The deflector shields were malfunctioning. I didn't have a choice, and because, Valera continued, her voice softening almost imperceptibly, in all our travels, across hundreds of worlds and thousands of encounters with alien species, we've never met anyone quite like you. Humans don't just solve problems, you improvise reality until it agrees with you. Dex stared at them both. At these alien princesses who'd somehow decided his rust bucket freighter was the safest place in the galaxy for their priceless artifacts. At the genuine trust in their crystalline eyes. 21 minutes, he repeated. Starting now, Valera confirmed. Dex grabbed his toolkit and headed for the cargo bay. Fine, but I'm charging triple my usual rate. You're not touching my tools. And when this goes wrong, and it will go wrong, I get to say I told you so for the next decade. Agreed, the princesses said together, already moving with practiced efficiency. As cargo containers began sliding through the airlock, each marked with security seals that would trigger interstellar incidents if broken, Dex couldn't help but wonder how his life had become this. 6 months ago, his biggest concern was finding cheap fuel. Now he was smuggling royal treasures past pirate armadas. 19 minutes later, the last container was secured. The princesses stood at the airlock, ready to return to their cruiser. The rendezvous point is encrypted in this data chip, Valera said, pressing the device into his palm. Meet us at the Andros Nebula's western edge in 60 hours. And Dex, Kane added, using his first name for the first time, try not to die. These visits are the most interesting part of our diplomatic tours. Before he could respond, they were gone, the airlock sealing behind them. Dex looked at the cargo bay, now filled with enough priceless artifacts to buy several planets. Then he looked at his ship, held together by hope and violation of physics. Right, he muttered, heading for the cockpit. Just another normal day in the outer fringe. The wrench's gambit rumbled to life, engines protesting but ultimately complying. As he plotted the course, Dex allowed himself a small smile. Humanity, he thought, might not have the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons, but they had something the universe was still trying to understand, the sheer audacity to make impossible things work. And somehow, that kept attracting alien princesses to his doorstep.